He sat still, surrounded by questions, surrounded by noise. But he didn't say a word. He didn't have to, because silence, when used right, speaks louder than anything else. In a world where everyone is trying to prove something, the one who says nothing is the one who makes people uncomfortable, curious, afraid. That's the paradox of power. The more you say, the more you expose. But when you hold back, when you say nothing, people lean in. They start to wonder what you're thinking. They start to imagine what you're capable of. And their imagination always goes further than your words ever could. You've seen this in meetings, in arguments, in politics. The quiet one in the room isn't ignored. They're studied, they're calculated, they're feared. Because silence creates mystery, and mystery creates power. That's not a theory, that's psychology. And Machiavelli knew it centuries ago. He didn't just study power, he dissected it. And what he discovered was this: if you want to control people, if you want to influence decisions, if you want to move without being stopped, then stop talking. Because when you speak, you give people something to attack. But when you're silent, they don't know where to strike, so they hesitate. They second-guess, and in that hesitation, you win. In a world addicted to attention, the one who doesn't chase it stands out. And that's exactly what this is about. This isn't just silence, it's strategy, it's control, it's how you outsmart everyone, without saying a word. Let's begin. Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't just a political thinker. He was a strategist in a world of chaos. A man who watched kings fall, empires collapse, and betrayals unfold in silence. And in that silence he found a pattern. He realized something most people never see. Power doesn't move loudly. It moves quietly, behind the curtain, through invisible influence. Machiavelli wrote The Prince not as a moral guide, but as a manual for survival. And if you read it carefully, you'll notice a chilling message underneath every line. Say less, reveal nothing. Control perception. He saw the world as a battlefield. Not of swords, but of minds. And in that battlefield, those who speak too much die first. Why? Because when you speak freely, you make yourself predictable. You give people patterns. You give them access to your thoughts, your emotions, your plans. But the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you go quiet, you become unreadable. And unreadable people are dangerous. They're the ones who leave others guessing. They shift power without showing their hand. They influence decisions without being in the room. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." And deception, real deception, often begins with silence. Because when people don't know your angle, they can't prepare for it. When they don't know your next move, they can't block it. And when they don't hear your voice, they start hearing their own fears. Silence makes the other side paranoid. They project, they assume, they overthink. And in that confusion, you gain control. That's the invisible game. It's not about lying, it's about letting others speak too much. It's about giving them space to reveal their weakness, while you stay hidden. The smartest leaders in history understood this. Julius Caesar paused before answering. Sun Tzu said, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night." Even modern power brokers, CEOs, negotiators, intelligence operatives, they all rely on the same principle. The less you say, the more control you have, because words can be traced. But silence can't be pinned down. It floats, it lingers, and it terrifies. So when Machiavelli talks about strategy, about cunning, about manipulation, he's not just talking about actions. He's talking about presence. He's talking about silence as a weapon. And today, in a world of non-stop noise, this strategy is even more powerful. Because when everyone else is screaming, the one who whispers or stays silent gets heard. The loudest. This isn't just history, this is human behavior, and it's time to use it. Silence isn't just a lack of words. It's a psychological weapon. A mirror that reflects people back at themselves. When you stay silent, people don't just notice it. They react to it. They fill it with their own thoughts, their own assumptions, their own fears. And that's where the power begins. Humans crave certainty. We want to know what others are thinking, what they're feeling, what they're planning, because if we can understand them, we feel safe. We feel in control. But when someone refuses to reveal themselves, when someone stays calm, distant, unreadable, that safety disappears. The brain goes into overdrive. It starts searching for meaning that isn't there. It starts overanalyzing every glance, every pause, every moment of silence. This isn't just theory, it's neuroscience. The amygdala, the part of the brain that handles threat detection, gets triggered by uncertainty. Silence, especially in moments when we expect words, feels like a threat to our social understanding. And when we feel that threat, we compensate. We talk more, we reveal more. We expose our hand just to break the tension. That's exactly what the strategist wants. By saying nothing, they create a vacuum. And nature hates a vacuum, so others rush to fill it. This is how you gain leverage without force, without manipulation, without conflict. It's not about intimidation, it's about discomfort. You create controlled discomfort in others by doing nothing, and in that discomfort, people make mistakes. They speak when they shouldn't. They apologize when they don't need to. They reveal insecurities. They give away power just to get a reaction from you. That's the psychology behind Machiavellian silence. It's not passive, it's active stillness. It's a choice to let others expose themselves while you remain a mystery. And mystery in the human mind is magnetic. Think about it. Who do we obsess over? The people who overshare, or the ones who leave us guessing? The most attractive personalities, the ones people remember, aren't always the funniest, smartest, or loudest. They're the ones you couldn't quite figure out. And that's the edge. In psychology, this is called the ambiguity effect. When people are unsure about something, they tend to pay more attention to it. They think about it longer. They try harder to decode it. In silence, you become that puzzle. You become the person people can't stop thinking about, not because you demanded attention, but because you withheld it. And the more they think about you, the more power you gain without ever moving. This works in business, in relationships, in conflict, in negotiation, because in all those areas the same principle applies. Control the tension. Don't rush to fill the silence. Let them sit in it. Let them reveal their hand. Let them need your words more than you need theirs. Because once you master this, you'll realize that the loudest voice in the room isn't the most powerful. The quietest one, the one who controls when and if they speak, is the one who's actually in charge. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, to defend your point and to respond instantly, stop, pause. Let the silence do the work for you. That's not weakness. That's psychological dominance. And it's how you win without saying a word. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't scream. It waits. It listens. It watches. And when the time is right, it moves, but only once, and only with precision. That's the kind of power that scares people. Not the one that's loud and aggressive, but the one that's quiet, controlled, focused. Because silence isn't the absence of strength. It's the mask that strength wears. Machiavelli saw this in rulers, generals, and kings. The ones who lasted weren't the ones shouting orders. They were the ones who let others talk, while they gathered information, while they calculated, while they remained unreadable. And when the moment came, they made a single move that changed everything. Think of how most people handle pressure. They react, they panic, they explain themselves, they overcompensate. But true power doesn't react. It responds, slowly, strategically. Because the moment you react emotionally, you give someone else control. That's why silence is so dangerous. It disrupts the emotional game. Most arguments, negotiations, or conflicts are battles of emotion. Who gets angry first? Who speaks first? Who caves first? But when you remain silent, calm, still, unshaken, You remove emotion from the equation. You become untouchable. That doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't show. And in that control, you dominate the game. People are trained to read expressions, tone, urgency. But when none of those are available, when you give them nothing, they're left with uncertainty, and people don't like uncertainty. So they fill in the blanks. They assume you're confident. They assume you're holding something powerful. They assume you know something they don't. That assumption gives you power. Because in silence, people project their own fears onto you. They turn you into something larger than life. Not because you are, but because you could be. And that possibility is often more powerful than the truth. This is why the quiet man in the room commands more attention than the loudest one. Why the calmest person in an argument usually wins. Why leaders who speak the least often influence the most. It's not magic. It's restraint. It's discipline. It's a deep understanding that power is not about noise. It's about presence. Controlled. Silence makes people uncomfortable, yes, but it also makes them respect you, because you've shown that you don't need their approval. You don't need their attention. You don't even need to be understood. That is real strength. The kind that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. It just is. And once you master that, you'll notice something strange. You don't have to force anything anymore. People start leaning in. They try harder. They respect your boundaries. They fear losing your attention. And all you did was stay quiet. We live in the loudest era in human history. Everyone's talking, everyone's posting, everyone's explaining themselves nonstop. Opinions, rants, reactions, noise disguised as connection. But here's the truth. No one wants to admit. The more you talk, the less power you have, because in today's world, attention is the new currency. And when you're constantly speaking, you're constantly spending it. Worse, you're begging for it. Machiavelli didn't write for a time of TikToks and Twitter threads, but his message hits harder now than ever. Silence isn't just power, it's rebellion, because in a world addicted to expression, not expressing is strategic resistance. Social media tells you to share everything, to speak on every issue, to prove yourself with every post. But ask yourself, who benefits from that? Not you. When you overshare, you give people a blueprint of your mind. You become predictable, trackable, easy to manipulate. The moment people know how you think, they know how to move around you. Or worse, through you. The modern system is designed to expose you. It rewards noise, but it punishes depth. That's the trap. The more you say, the more likely it is you'll be misunderstood, or worse, weaponized, used against yourself. Smart. People know this. They don't react to every tweet. They don't defend every opinion. They don't need to prove anything because they understand. In the noise economy, mystery is rare. And what's rare becomes valuable. That's why the silent ones stand out. They're not chasing validation. They're not trying to be liked. They're watching, calculating, controlling the tempo. And in a world that's obsessed with speed, control of tempo is everything. The loud get attention, yes, but the quiet get results. They know the more emotionally reactive you are, the more manipulable you become. So they move differently. They pause before speaking. They leave messages on read. They walk away from unnecessary debates. They don't react, they observe. And in doing that, they create distance, not physical distance, power distance. Because distance creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. And attention, when you're not asking for it, becomes a magnet. The world will try to pull you into the noise. It will tempt you to react, to explain, to expose. But don't fall for it, because the more noise you escape, the more clearly you start to see the game. The people who matter will notice your silence. They'll study it, respect it, and in many cases, they'll fear it. Not because you're hiding weakness, but because you've mastered control. And control, in the modern world, is the most misunderstood form of intelligence. There's a moment in every power game when the smartest move is to say nothing. No defense, no reaction, no explanation, just silence. And in that silence, something happens. You become unreadable. Unreadable means untouchable. When no one can figure you out, no one can predict your next move. No one knows if you're calm or calculating, if you're passive or planning a storm. That's where real control begins. Most people walk around broadcasting their inner world. They show their fears, their opinions, their need to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, and they don't even realize it. But when you shut up, you stop playing their game, you move above it. You create a barrier, one they can't cross. Not because you're hiding something, but because you've chosen not to reveal anything. That choice, it rewires how people respond. To you, they hesitate, they second guess. They assume you know something they don't. They become cautious around you, not out of fear, but out of uncertainty. And uncertainty is power. Think of the most respected people in any room. They don't need to shout. They don't need to dominate. They speak less because their presence speaks more. Every time you hold back a response, every time you stay calm while others lose control, you gain ground in negotiations, in arguments, in relationships, in life, because you've mastered the one move they never see coming: restraint. And that's what Machiavelli understood. He didn't teach dominance through force. He taught influence through unpredictability, through silence, through mystery. In a world built on exposure, becoming unreadable is the ultimate advantage. It's not about being fake. It's not about being cold. It's about protecting your inner world from a world that constantly tries to exploit it. So, when in doubt, shut up. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. Because the moment you become unreadable, you become unforgettable. Silence is not a theory. It's a weapon. And like any weapon, its power comes from how and when you use it. This is where most people fail. They stay quiet at the wrong time, or speak when silence would have won the room. But Machiavellian silence isn't just about saying less. It's about saying nothing until the moment matters. Here's how you apply it. In conflict, say less than you feel when someone provokes you. Don't respond. Not with anger, not with sarcasm, not with defense. Just pause. Breathe. Let the silence stretch. The longer you stay calm, the more power shifts to your side. Because silence forces the other person to confront themselves, their insecurity, their overreaction. And that self-confrontation is more powerful than anything you could say. In negotiation, make them fill the silence after you make your offer. Stop talking. Most people rush to justify or explain, but silence creates pressure. They'll talk to ease it, and often they'll reveal more than they should. Let them. Your silence becomes a mirror. They show you their hand just to avoid sitting in discomfort. In social settings, speak with intent, not impulse. The quietest person in the room isn't invisible. They're studying. Every silence gives you information. Who's insecure? Who's trying too hard? Who's emotionally reactive? You don't need to impress anyone. The one who speaks last often speaks with the most weight. Let others reveal themselves. You stay unreadable. In power dynamics, stay mysterious. People want to define you. They want to know where you stand, what you believe, what you think. Don't give it away. The more unpredictable you are, the more they respect you. Because mystery signals independence. You're not seeking approval. You're operating on your own frequency. And in a world addicted to validation, that's magnetic. In self-control, master the impulse to explain. You don't need to explain your boundaries. Your silence is your answer. When someone crosses a line, don't argue, just walk away. No drama, no reaction, just absence. That silence is louder than any confrontation, and it protects your peace. Machiavelli didn't live in the digital age, but his ideas are more relevant now than ever, because today the people who win aren't always the smartest. They're the most emotionally disciplined. They speak when it counts. They act without warning. And they stay silent when everyone else is screaming for attention. That's the move, that's the edge. So next time you're pulled into drama, chaos, or emotional bait, pause, breathe, say nothing. Let the silence work for you. Because in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the real power belongs to the one who can stay silent and still be felt. In the end, it's not the loud who shape the world. It's the quiet who understand when not to speak. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's precision. It's restraint. It's control. The world rewards those who react fast, but it quietly obeys those who wait and choose their moment. Machiavelli understood something we've forgotten. Speech is cheap. But silence, real intentional silence, is rare, and rare things hold power. When you say nothing, you say, I don't need validation. I don't fear misunderstanding. I know who I am. You remove the audience. You remove the game. And you remove the power others thought they had over you. Most people chase attention, but the powerful ones, they let it chase them. Because the truth is simple. The more silent you are, the more people project onto you. And in that projection, you gain influence. You become a symbol, not a statement. A mystery, not a message. And mystery always lasts. Longer than noise, so let them talk. Let them try to figure you out. But you keep watching, keep waiting. Keep moving in silence. Because when you master the art of saying nothing, you don't just win the moment. You control the story, and the one who controls the story always wins in the end. If you've learned something from this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more. We dive deep into ideas, philosophies, and mind games like no one else. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the world needs fewer words, and more people who know when to stay quiet. Thanks for watching, and remember, power doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be understood.